All right, we're gonna breathe in and breathe out. Okay. Hey, little guys. Today we are playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2. I am going to be ranking all 30 of the characters in this game. Starting with these four bozos. And let me just preface this. I am doing this in a super casual way, not taking myself very seriously. Just kind of trying to start a discussion, and if people have an opinion, I want to hear it. I do actually. I just hope you realize, like, I'm not taking myself very seriously when I do this, and I'm just talking about these characters based on my experience, not based on like some scientific knowledge of them. Like, I don't try hard at this game, and that's kind of the point, right? Like, we're playing this ish for fun. And we're gonna start with Captain America. So as you can see, we're just playing this stupid simulation mission thing that allows me to fight a bunch of robots. I wish I could fight a mix of guys, but it is what it is. So I'm gonna start by talking about Captain America, and I'm gonna start by talking about the things I think make him actually really good. I think important things in this game to have as a character is not only good damage, like just being able to like really damage someone, which Captain America can clearly do with his shield swipe here. He's just eating away at this guy. Good utility, like mobility, for example, like being able to move around really well is useful, because sometimes when you have big boys like this, being able to attack enemies in the back is really helpful. Some guys really like to just hide behind them and go crazy. And then also we have this little aura ability that Captain America has that pretty much boosts my character's defenses. And Captain America especially benefits from this, since he's already a pretty bulky guy. So what this is leading me to say is that Captain America actually works really well in a decent amount of situations, being able to take a lot of damage, being able to, or at least, being able to take a beating, being able to move around really well when he needs to, and also being able to do a decent amount of damage with this shield swipe, which is my favorite ability from him, which just eats away at their health, and I can just spam it. It doesn't cost too much power. I've just been spamming my power already. And then, yeah, as you can see, I can like really work this guy down, not taking too much of a beating. And because of all that stuff, Captain America, as biased as I am here, is gonna get an S tier from me. He's definitely one of the best characters in this game, in my opinion. And if my opinion stinks, you know what to do, bro. I mean, leave a nice comment. And then, yeah, I think that's all I got to say on Cap. S tier. Really enjoy him. Iron Man, his natural rival in this game, is ironically gonna suffer here. Or maybe it makes perfect sense if I'm a Captain America fan, that I'm about to, punish Tony. His really only two abilities that I really care about with him is his Unibeam, which honestly can be really frustrating because it doesn't actually do anything to them. It just does damage. And that can be really lame when the enemy is charging at my face and doesn't really give me any space. So not being able to control them and slow them down is actually really annoying. From that perspective, Iron Man definitely suffers. His other thing that he has to his advantage is just his shoulder charge, which actually does pretty decent damage, and I can spam it pretty easily. And because of that, actually, he has some value here. Like, being able to do a shoulder charge definitely, or do decent damage, actually gives him an advantage, in my opinion. And from that perspective, I can appreciate him. The only other thing I can say for Tony is that he can fly around. Again, mobility is key. And in this case, I can definitely give him credit for that. So from all those perspectives, I'm really appreciating what Tony brings. His real issue is he just doesn't have a real way to do damage consistently. Like, it's the shoulder charge, and then you run out of power, and then what? You know what I mean? It like, he kind of struggles because it eats up all his power really fast, and it doesn't really stop enemies from building up. So that's one of my huge issues with him. and then otherwise it's just that he can't really take that much damage. He can't take a beating at all almost. So I'm really just gonna give him a B for being able to function and get the job done, but not do it too particularly well. So that's a B for Iron Man. As you can see, I can at least kill these robots with ease. So Spider-Man's really gonna suffer that because we're fighting really big enemies, so none of his abilities will really show anything off, really. But basically, Spider-Man's whole thing is being Spider-Man, jumping around with his webs, and then shooting webs, and then webs, you know? Like, it's just a lot of webs. In theory, if these guys were smaller, he could, like, control them and like, cover them in webs and slow them down. And actually, that would be really useful against when you're fighting bigger guys. Like, the small guys really need to stay still and stop hiding behind them. And so having someone like Spider-Man who can easily get on top of them and like web them up is helpful, I would say. It's nothing crazy, which is the thing. Like, he's still gonna struggle against these big boys, but it does something. I think the only other thing of use is this big web sack that he has. I mean, it does something. Actually, it does pretty decent damage. I don't know. I was going somewhere with this, but I'm not sure where to rank Spider-Man. Like, in some ways, he does no damage. In other ways, like, he does okay. I think my favorite part about him is definitely the fact that he can web swing and jump around a lot. But he also dies so easily, and as you can tell, that machine gun barrage, like, already nearly killed him. On the other hand, the web sack is doing some decent damage. All I can really say for Spider-Man is I guess I'm gonna have to put him at a B. I really don't want to put everyone at a B, but the thing is, I think I could work with this. You know what I mean? Like, jumping around and just spamming the web sack. Yo, swing that thing, bro. But no, okay. Yeah, B. I'll give him the B. I didn't want to at first, but I'm gonna give it to him. I think he earned it with his little web swinging and web sack. It's worth something. This leads into Wolverine, who has his own little buff. When I do that, it adds damage to his melee attack, which actually is already pretty decent because he does get critical hits pretty comfortably. Oh my gosh, if I could actually land the melee attacks, Jesus Christ. But yeah, as you can tell, that guy went down pretty easily with just melee attacks. Oh my gosh, bro. And as you can see, Spider-Man is down, bro. Anyway, yeah, I was able to pretty cleanly kill those guys. The other good thing about Wolverine is his little lunge here, which allows him to get in their face really well and does a pretty decent amount of damage. Sometimes I just like to spam that by itself. But definitely, I would say, like, honestly, just boosting his melee damage and then just going for combo attacks is the best way to handle these guys. With Wolverine, I mean. Bro, if they could stop spamming the freaking ground slam, though. My gosh. Look at them, bro. Calm down. Anyway, because of that, I think Wolverine has some utility. The biggest issue for him is that he can't move around that well. Like, his lunge is the only thing he has. And with bigger enemies blocking the way, or my own teammates blocking the way, that can be really annoying. Like, he can't fly is what I'm trying to say. So I think that's actually one of the things that holds him back the most. He also has a healing factor, but does it really do anything in this game? I don't think so. So with all that in mind, I'm going to give Wolverine an A. I think he does a lot of good damage in close combat, and I think that's what he really needs. All right, this brings us to the Fantastic Four, which, yeah, I don't know. Some of these guys, man, some of these guys. Let's start with Reed Richards. I think his best ability is this little flip that he does. It can do decent. Oh my gosh, bro. But if they can just stop spamming these moves, bro. It does pretty decent damage as I just kind of spam it around. As you can see, it kind of helped me melt that guy. And it also helps me move around a little bit. But it does eat up a decent amount of power. And it doesn't... I don't know. It's just okay. Like, it does damage. It does do damage. At least I get that much out of it, right? Other than that, though, Reed doesn't really have much. I mean, his A button is a little roly-poly. At least it helps me move around more. His B button is a little spin, and his X is just a slam. None of these things really do particularly good damage, at least from what I can tell. It really comes down to his little flippy flips, and his flippy flips do okay. I think otherwise, though, I find him kind of underwhelming, especially when he's being surrounded by a lot of enemies and these bigger guys. So for me, he definitely suffers a lot in combat, and I'm gonna have to give him a C. Obviously he can function, but it's nothing too crazy. I don't think the flips alone is enough for me to put him at a B. I'm gonna put him at a C for Mr. Fantastic, which helps me move on to Human Torch. And Human Torch honestly goes kind of crazy thanks to his one ability, which is his Y ability, where I can just kind of shoot a burst of flames, or basically a flamethrower. And as you can see, it literally melts these robots. That first guy went down so fast, the second guy too, but it just ran out of power. This is really great even against actual boss fights, so this is why I definitely had to give a lot of credit to Human Torch, because this is crazy. I almost called him Heat Blast, bro. I always got him confused with Ben 10's characters. I mean Ben 10's Heat Blast. But like, that's crazy, bro. This is the fastest I can melt any enemy. Like, that's the fastest I've killed any of them across all 6 heroes I played so far. And I think Human Torch deserves a lot of credit for that. He can also fly, which gives him some mobility, and I think that's about it. His other abilities are not worth talking about. Oh, his pillar is okay. It does some crowd control, which is important, but ultimately you don't even need it in my opinion. You just bring out that Y ability, bro, and you just spam it until they melt. It is worth noting that Human Torch can die pretty easily, but that's why I also want to acknowledge that he can fly, so at least he can like kind of defend himself, and that's about it. So even with that in mind, like, he has some noticeable weaknesses, I still am gonna put him at S, just because he can kill enemies much faster than I think anyone I can find in this game. So S for Human Torch. That brings us over to Susan Storm, the Invisible Woman. And I would say one thing I like about her is actually being able to go invisible. Enemies obviously start ignoring me, which is actually a really big deal, because they love to like hug me the whole time, bro, and just like pay so much attention to me when I'm playing as someone. Like, they don't really care about who they're supposed to be attacking, they just attack me. I also am noticing, and I don't know if this is actually a thing, but like, they're not actually even hitting me when they attack blindly. Like, their slam attack isn't doing that much to me. Okay, actually hit me, never mind. But I do think it's worth acknowledging that they can that she can turn invisible and kind of get ignored by the enemies. And it's worth noting that they, even though they were attacking around them, they weren't. Wait a minute, did she actually avoid that? Oh wait, hold on, I gotta test this, because now I'm confused. The bullets don't hit me. Yo, attack. Bro's not even attacking. I'm immune to attack? Are you serious? Oh no, I got hit there. Okay, interesting. I'm not sure if they miss sometimes or what, but as you can tell, like, there's some defensive advantages to being invisible. I think that's the only thing I really want to acknowledge with Invisible Woman. She can't really move around that well. She has some crowd control abilities actually too, that's also worth noting, but you can't really see that here, unfortunately. Her little bubble could grab someone. Her little X ability can slam to stun them or slam them down. And her circle ability, I said circle, her B ability does have the ability to stun, but again, these guys don't react to that. I think the name of the game is usually fighting these mini bosses. The crowd control can usually be a secondary thing, but I think it's worth acknowledging. For that reason, though, I'm just gonna give her a B. I don't think she does that much damage. I think she can die pretty easily if I don't take advantage of her invisibility, but she does have good crowd control. and being invisible is useful. So I still think she's a B at least, and I'll give her credit for that much. Anyway, the thing has a little boost here. It's meant to increase his defense from a... Let me make sure I know how this works. Hold on. Okay, I just want to make sure I understood how the thing's aura ability worked. So the thing has this clobbering time ability where he can pretty much taunt enemies and at the same time increase his own defense. That's one of the most useful things he can do. And then the other is this jump slam. Yeah. Well, it's a mix of the jump slam and his shoulder charge. So he has two things that I like to talk about with the thing. His shoulder charge right there did some decent damage. It helped me get right in the face of the enemy. And it helps me move around pretty quickly. So that's pretty good, but I think it eats up a lot of power. So the other good thing is his jump slam, which helps him like just be kind of annoying. So as you can see, the thing is really good at just getting in your face and like just standing there and like kind of beating you down. And he has good health too. So I never really noticed that he's really struggles to survive, which I would hope so with all his tanky abilities. And for that reason, I actually had to give the thing some credit. Like, he is pretty useful in combat. I think really well rounded, and he gets the job done. He can't do too much damage, but he can do enough damage by just kind of staying in your face and beating you down. So with all that, I'll give him the A. I think he deserves it. He's pretty well rounded. At least he can move around, right? I think that's all worth acknowledging. The thing gets an A from me. Okay, these next few are basically the defenders, and I don't have great news. I don't think I'm loving any of these guys except for maybe Iceman, so it's gonna be almost C's, all C's across the board. First person up is Daredevil. I'm gonna stop blocking to kind of make the point here, because this is kind of the issue, is that if I know how to fight these guys so easily, you don't really get to see how well these guys handle damage. But basically, Daredevil just does really good job getting in people's faces and doing damage, right? He has decent crits, and that's about it. In terms of his powers, they don't really add any utility, in my opinion. This little jump slam he has, like, gives him a little buff there, and that's about it. Otherwise though, like, just being able to go pure head, like, one-on-one with people isn't enough. Like, obviously one of the bigger issues in this game can be crowd control and fighting a lot of enemies at once, and I don't like, this is not gonna cut it. This little slinging thing that he does, and he has no mobility as well, which is also not gonna help him. I'm noticing that these guys is like slam to the ground doesn't really hit consistently. I'm starting to think it's just not as good as I thought it was, because they were spamming it earlier and it was hitting me every time, unless Daredevil's buff actually helps with that, but whatever. Next is Luke Cage. Again, not too crazy about this guy either. Good stuff about him is the best thing about him is his survivability. That's literally it. He can get in your face and he can beat down. But there's a big difference between him and the thing. And that's that none of his abilities really help with anything except for obviously this aura ability I have. That is another taunt that gives me a defense boost. Otherwise, like, I literally just have not much. A little ground pummel that can like do some crowd control for me. His little chain that does some damage. I ran out of power in that process, and that's it. But because he really doesn't have mobility, he doesn't have any real abilities that could do crowd control. Like, yes, he has a ground pummel, but it runs out of power really fast, and really you just have to spam it. Well, that's why it runs out of power, because you just have to spam it until you run out of power. So from that perspective, I'm not a huge fan of Luke Cage either. He's just way too grounded and nothing more, and for that reason I'm giving him a C. Again, what makes him different from the thing is that he can't move around and he doesn't really have much crowd control. Those are two things the thing definitely does have. Iron Fist. Iron Fist. Okay, let's talk about the obvious. He can heal you, right? And it gives you a little shield. That's actually pretty cool. I like the fact that he's probably the only person who can actually heal you instead of heal himself with regeneration or whatever. And just like Daredevil, he has some decent crits at times, and I can appreciate that as well. Iron Fist's biggest issue is that none of his other abilities are really useful in my opinion. That little charge he has, this little thing that like stuns enemies, a ground slam, nothing crazy. And then yeah, I mean, there's just not I mean, other than literally being able to heal and give a little shield, it's just not much to talk about with Iron Fist. He can't move around. He's very squishy. I feel like he's way more squishy than even Spider-Man or Daredevil. So I don't know. That's another C. I don't think healing is enough, especially because when you're healing, like usually enemies are really on your butt, and they just try to go nuts in the process of that. The only person I'm going to give a B to is Iceman. So again, I'm giving Iceman a B. And the reason why is because he has a little long range attack here. I can then go on his little ice slide, get some distance, and just spam it. And unlike Iron Man's Unibeam, for example, it takes no time at all. It's really easy to spam, and it does decent damage. So I can definitely appreciate that. He does also have some abilities for crowd control, which is really just this little iceberg here. Not that it's doing any damage in this situation. And he has this ice punch, which does some amount of damage, but to be honest, I would just spam this ability here if I were fighting a boss. So I'm gonna give Iceman a B. All right, guys. I don't know what to say about this one. I haven't used Deadpool much, so I would love to hear opinions on this one, because I tried to see if there's anything I really like about Deadpool, and honestly, like when I think about it, I'm like, it's really not much. I thought he was pretty cool, but there's really not much for me to talk about. So if I'm missing something, I would definitely like to hear it, because he can teleport. That's cool. And he has this X ability that allows him to drop grenades on people while he's teleporting around. That's also cool because it would theoretically poison enemies and do some amount of crowd control. But here it does nothing because they're robots, so it's really bad here. And that's actually what's really sad about this, is that I can't really do much to show that Deadpool is useful here. Like literally nothing. Like I can't, he's not getting me any crazy crits. He has some level of movement ability, I guess. What am I missing about him that I'm not getting? Because this is really sad looking at it right now. Like I can't, if I didn't even know his grenades do something, like I wouldn't even be able to speak to that. So holy crap, like I'm gonna have to give Deadpool a D. He can regenerate health, I think, and I mean he should be able to regenerate health. Yeah, he can. And he can teleport. Other than that, he's probably much better behind other enemies, but again, when I'm playing him, the enemies like to target me directly anyway, and I don't know what to say. His pistols are like okay. Like I'm really trying, but I don't know, guys. I'm not seeing the vision for Deadpool. I need other opinions on this one. I'm gonna have to put him at a D until something comes up. Psylocke I was feeling pretty similarly about at first, but then I discovered her Y ability here, and I realized like there's something there, bro. This thing has a tendency to get crits, and when it gets a crit, it actually does decent damage. So as you can see, she's just kind of doing like a psychic sword attack, and it actually does a decent amount of damage. It's kind of crazy how like it can crit and like do like 1,000 damage in one of those 3 hits. But you may also be seeing she takes decent damage. I mean, she doesn't take a lot of damage. She's not very sturdy. I'm already dying, and not even Deadpool was having that issue. So and I don't have much else to talk about. She does have movement, I guess, with this little dash attack. I can target it wherever I need to target it. It's okay. But at the end of the day, like, she needs to get in people's faces and do damage. Like, she doesn't really have range. That's another thing. So for someone so squishy, like, come on, man. I don't know what to say. I'm gonna have to put her at C. That was really sad. At least she can do damage. That's what I'm giving her credit for, but that's about all I can give her credit for. This brings me to Cable. I don't know how to feel about Cable either. Honestly, these guys so far are making me sad because I definitely don't want to spam Bs, and then I get people like this, and then I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna start spamming Cs and Ds, bro. So similar to Iceman, Cable has a little energy beam attack that actually does pretty decent damage, and I would say that's probably his best move. After that, I thought his projectile attack here was pretty good too in general, but in this case it doesn't really do that much damage, so I don't know if that was an accurate experience or not. It's really just this laser beam attack, which is cool. As you can tell, I can't really keep range without dodge rolling or something. Like, it's kind of sad how he can't do much else other than just stand there and shoot a laser beam at people. Nothing too exciting, to be honest. Melee damage is pretty standard. I'm not sure what to say with this one. He's okay, like, functional. I'm gonna give him a D. I'm sorry, I have to. It's just the fact that there's really almost nothing there, bro. It's literally just a laser attack, but he can't even create his own space, so that's a huge issue in my eyes. Lastly, this brings me to Juggernaut. Now, yo, the experience, yo, all I remember as a kid is getting on Xbox Live, bro, and I couldn't afford to pay for DLC, so I would just download that free Juggernaut DLC thing that lets you play with other people online, and then if they have Juggernaut, you can use Juggernaut, or they had the same free DLC thing. Just something like that. But that was like the only way I could use Juggernaut, and I used to be like, yo, Juggernaut is the only reason I even wanted this game, bro. It was so cool being able to play as Juggernaut, just hearing his stomping as he charges around. But that's besides the point. Yeah, it is what I'm saying, though. I do like this ability a lot. It allows me to push through a lot of enemies without issues, especially when they're like the weaker ones. Otherwise, there's really not much to talk about with Juggernaut. He's pretty bulky in general. He doesn't really need buffs like the other guys. As you can see, I'm like getting slapped around. It's fine. And then that's it, though. Like, he has this little spin attack that I'm doing now. It does some damage. He's like okay, like he gets the job done, and I wouldn't say much more. If there's a lot of enemies, he can run around with his little head charge, but in terms of damage, he's not really gonna do it for you. And in terms of defense, it really is just he has a lot of health. Not much to talk about with Juggernaut, I'm not gonna lie. Not much utility, just as straightforward as a tank gets. With that, I'm gonna give him a B. The difference between him and the Thing in this case is that he has no utility. He's literally just tanky, and that's it. That's all he can do. All right, let's move on to the rest of the X-Men. Starting with Magneto. So my favorite attack with Magneto is this little munch move. Like this move that comes out of the ground and like kind of just bites you, bro. Like, just like a move that bites you, bro. I don't even know how to describe it. Look at this. It just bites you, bro. Look at it biting. Like little chomps out of the ground. It does pretty damage, and it's pretty good damage, and it's pretty spammable. As you can see, it took that guy down pretty well. Magneto also has this little saw thing that can be pretty useful against multiple enemies, although nothing crazy. And then, let's see. Oh yeah, this is pretty good for crowd control, and I think that's about it. I use this move sometimes, but like I don't find it all that useful. It's really about this move right here. Just chomp, 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 bro, from the ground. I had to get back on the ground to regenerate my power, but as you can see, I can spam it pretty easily, and I gotta give him credit for that. But of course, I wouldn't really rely on Magneto in close range combat, so that's probably his biggest weakness. It's just he kind of needs to keep his distance the whole time and spam his powers, and as a result, I'm just gonna give him an A. I think he's very good at range, and he can definitely keep it that way thanks to his flight abilities, and some of his abilities definitely do a good job of keeping people off of him. I'm gonna go to Storm to give a similar idea to her. I'm also giving her an A, and with her it's also just about spamming her abilities from distance. What I like about Storm, if I can get multiple guys out at the same time, thank you very much. What I like about Storm is that she does pretty good damage with her lightning, especially when there's multiple enemies there. As you can see, I can chain her lightning together and pretty much do a lot of damage to multiple people at the same time. Just spamming lightning from a distance. She has a lot of power, so I don't really have to worry about running out of power. Actually, she's doing better than Magneto was doing too, in terms of saving power, but in terms of spamming her ability, like just having the power to spam it, is she's much slower. Still though, it does a decent amount of damage, and as you can see, like, she's handling these guys pretty well. There's this like oops, I ran out of power now. There is this like hail ability she has that's pretty cool. As you can see, it took that guy down. The power of wind like keeps people off of her. That's it. She's really good with crowd control and stuff. I really like her, but yeah, she doesn't have a lot of health, and if she gets too overwhelmed, she will die very fast. So she's also really bad in like one-on-one situations, like when it's just one enemy. So it's really nice to have like multiple guys here to chain the lightning off of and stuff like that. Yeah, I'll give her the A anyway. I think she's very good in a lot of different situations. Gambit, not my favorite guy, but I think I've seen some stuff that I like about him. Primarily his Y ability here in this case will be very useful if I can just spam it. Look at that, just make it rain cards. I nearly killed this guy with ease, and all I had to do was just stand there and spam his Y ability. Oh my god. Yeah, they're both dead. That was really good. His other thing that makes him really useful is, I think, his Y ability. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it doesn't do great in this situation, but it does do great in just keeping enemies off of him. His little staff ability here, as you can see, he has some stuff that like makes him really good even in this situation, but overall, like, he has no movement, and yeah, not a lot of health. So if enemies were surrounding him and he were getting overwhelmed by like some tankier enemies, I think he would actually struggle a lot. In general though, I'll give him the B. I think he's very functional. He definitely gets the job done, and that's about it. And with 20 seconds, I definitely can talk about Jean Grey, because there's nothing to talk about with her, bro. She's so bad. I'm sorry. I don't know. With the other guys, I'm like, what am I missing, you know? But with her, it's just like, she dies very easily, and I'm trying to let her die to show the one thing that makes her interesting to me, which is she is the Phoenix after all, and so she comes back from death. Otherwise, it's like, it's literally these telekinetic abilities just don't do much damage to single enemies, and even her abilities look like they do crowd control, right? Because she does have telekinetic abilities. You would think crowd control is her advantage, but it's like she can like stun people and stuff, but it does no damage, bro. It's really underwhelming, and it makes me sad. I could spam this, I guess. That's cool, but she's too squishy, and look how quickly I ran out of power. So I don't know, it's just not good enough, and I'm gonna put her at a D anyway, even with all the things that I mentioned were good. All right, let's move on to some of the Avengers in the game, starting with Thor. I don't know how to feel about Thor. Like, sometimes he's like really good, and sometimes he's like eh. In particular with this little slam here, I can like give myself an electric boost that improves my strength, from what I understand. And then from there, I can just kind of like spam this like heavy Mjolnir swipe, which does some good damage. And then that's about it. There's really not much to talk about this guy. This kind of sucks. That move really makes me sad. And then his A ability is just a little charge. It doesn't really do much for him. So I don't know. I wish he used more lightning, bro, because this makes me really sad. He just does a decent amount of damage with this, and I mean, that's really good damage, actually. So what I can say is he does that, right? But in a situation with a lot of enemies and even a boss fight, like, I'd be worried that he would get overwhelmed really easily if not for his survivability. Which is good. So I can only really say he's a B. He's not really doing anything too special. It's just a lot of damage with one ability, and that's it. I can't really speak for anything else he does, except for maybe he gives himself that little strength boost. That still moves me to Hulk. Hulk also gives himself a strength boost. Just screams, gets a little mad. And if I can pull in an extra guy here, the thing that Hulk does that I really like is this like little slam that he gets a little mad. It does really good in terms of crowd control and keeping enemies in check. He has his little shoulder charge. I don't feel like it's as good as the things, but it gets the job done. I mean, it does get the job done, I'll tell you that. Something about them execute a little differently that I can't really explain, but it gets the job done. And then, yeah, he also has like this clap. So, I mean, it's clear to me that like he does like some decent damage thanks to like all those like extra stats that he gets from, I don't know, like crushing abilities, like stuff like that. And his like anger mode can definitely help him do some extra damage as well. He also heals during it, I just saw. And he has good crowd control. So overall, I think he's solid. I can't really speak too crazy about him, but I think he's solid, and he definitely is someone I would want on my team if I need like to deal with like strong and like a lot of enemies at the same time. So I am actually gonna give him the A because I think he's very functional in the worst types of situations. So I give him credit for that. Black Panther. He has good projectile, right? Like if you aim it correctly, geez, like it kind of stacks on itself, right? Similarly, his melee attacks like do some decent stuff. And then his Y ability is okay. Yeah, I don't really have much good things to say about Black Panther. He kind of makes me sad as well. He does some decent amount of damage, and that's about it. But nothing crazy, no crits, nothing like that. Just like some like additional damage from each swipe, and that's about it. So with all that, I'm still gonna put him at C. It's just not enough. He can't move around that well. Yeah, that, and he doesn't have good survivability. Doesn't have any crazy useful powers. Just good melee. So that's a C. And that brings us to Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, who has this particle thing that she surrounded herself with before I even got to her. That can be really useful because it can actually help her heal while she's doing damage. So that's really cool. The other thing is she has this X ability similar to Iceman and Cable, which does some good damage as well. And actually all her abilities are like pretty well rounded and pretty thought out actually for her, what she needs to do, which is just get in people's faces and just do some damage. Like I was saying, get in people's faces and do some damage, and I think that's pretty much what she needs to do. So with that in mind, I can definitely see her kind of getting the job done here. She has good survivability, her attacks have good utility, she's pretty well rounded. I think she's also pretty dependable in different types of situations, and of course flying always helps. So I am gonna give her an A for that. I think she's a pretty well-rounded character. I'm giving her an A. All right, let's move on to the Thunderbolts. Starting with Songbird. Her Y ability is her big move. It kind of reminds me of the one Human Torch has, but the difference is it doesn't do as much damage. It still does good damage. Her projectile is actually pretty decent. It stacks up pretty well against like groups of enemies, and that's about it. Her other moves help her with crowd control and stuff, but they're not particularly good at that. I think Songbird is pretty decent when it comes to like these kind of long range fights. If I can like hide behind my teammates, I could do some decent damage. And that's about it. So from that perspective, I'm gonna give her a B. She just doesn't do enough damage. I mean, she takes a lot of damage very easily, and she doesn't really do anything too crazy on her own. So all good there. Venom, he has this kind of leaping ability that allows him to like do some amount of damage to the enemy and then like gives him an attack buff at the same time. The other things that I like about Venom is just kind of stuff that I can't really show off here. He has like this web grab ability. He has this little thing here. What that tongue do? What that tongue do? But that's more for fun. And he's dead. Anyway, I mean, I think that was pretty much kind of showing the problem with Venom. So he doesn't really do enough. He just does some decent damage, and he can take some decent damage. And worst comes to worst, he can web swing, right? That's cool. I'm giving him a B. Penance. Penance. He's so weird to me. Like, some things about this guy is really cool, and something about this guy is really underwhelming. He has this ability that kind of covers everyone in a buff that like does damage back to the enemy when they do damage to me. He has this ability that actually does some decent damage to multiple enemies too, although it's really slow and can like really leave him vulnerable. Look how much damage that did. The biggest issue that Penance has is, yeah, that he's just very slow and clunky and doesn't take a lot of damage. As you can see, I'm almost at half health, and I really melted them, but it's kind of hard to do it because he just kind of stands there. Look at him just taking damage. So he does a lot of damage, but he takes a lot of damage very easily as well. Because of that, I'm gonna give him a B. Look at that, he does so good in damage department, but it's just anyway. And Green Goblin's an S tier. It's just not a question to me. The thing with Green Goblin is his freaking Goblin Saucer, whatever this thing is called. I forgot. The Goblin Copter, bro. Just this ability. Look at this. Look at that. I walked into him, so it stopped hitting him. But bro, the fact that I can even do that much damage so easily, and that's not even one of his actual powers, bro. His actual powers are kind of mid, actually. And then I have a little missile here that also does a pretty decent amount of damage. I believe it also incinerates the enemies if I need it to. Like, Green Goblin is cool. Yo, can I land one of these, bro? All right, that is one of the issues with both of the Goblin Copter abilities, is that it can be kind of hard to land them. But when you do, bro, oh my gosh, look at that. Melted him, bro. Goblin's other ability, Goblin's actual abilities, because that wasn't even his abilities. That's just literally a bonus. His other abilities are just okay. They do stack up buffs with Incinerate and Poison. Although I can't show off the Poison here. He has some grenades. Yeah. And the grenade and his actual projectile is actually not that bad either. But it's all about the Goblin Copter, bro. Oh my. Yo, bro, take some missiles to the face, bro. That's crazy, bro. Oh my gosh. And then at the same time, he's just flying around. Like, you can't really hurt him back. The only issue is that he runs out of power while he's doing it. That's it. That's an S tier. No questions asked. Okay. And that brings us to our last two people, Carnage and Nick Fury. our villains. Alright, starting with Nick Fury. I didn't even really think too much about this, but I remember Nick Fury was actually pretty good. Because he just brings in multiple abilities from multiple people, which I really like about him. Oh, the popcorn, my gosh, bro, this popcorn is crazy. This popcorn does so much damage, man. Look at that. And then he has Spider-Woman's abilities that can poison people, and Electro's abilities that can like cause a stun and everything. I mean, I can't lie, like I feel like Nick Fury is a pretty well-rounded character. He has the shoulder charge of his own, which allows him to move around really well and push through enemies. He has that Spider-Woman ability that can like poison and do a little bit of stunning to enemies, as well as Electro's thing that also stuns. But the popcorn, it's all about the Firestar popcorn, bro. I can't lie. Nick Fury is, I mean, it's not even surprising. He's literally has powers from all types of heroes. He's really well-rounded. I really like him. I'm going to put him at an S. He can fly. I mean, it's not very fast at flying. But he also has the shoulder charge. So he has pretty good mobility and everything. Like in damage, the popcorn is crazy. And he takes decent damage too, because I believe he can regenerate health on his own. All right, I might be making that up. I'm not even gonna say that, but it doesn't matter. He does have pretty decent. No, he definitely just healed right there, right? Am I crazy? Anyway, S tier, S tier. That's an S tier for him, and that brings us to our final character, Carnage. Carnage. What can I say about you that no one's ever said before? The main thing about Carnage is definitely just his up close damage. He gets in your face and he goes crazy. I have this little B ability. It heals me a little bit. It does a lot of damage to enemies around me. I have this Y ability that he creates these little axes or whatever those are called with crescents with his hands, and then they just do like a decent amount of damage, just cutting down the enemy's health little by little. And then that's about it. Other than that, he just kind of sits there and scratches away at you. He isn't that hard to kill, that is true, but he does have the ability to web swing, although he has no real long range abilities. I think he's a B. Like he just kind of gets the job done, but he can also easily get slapped around. He's a pretty good damage dealer is what I'm trying to say. He's a B. But with all that being said, let me know what you guys think, please. If you're gonna flame me, just remember, I'm not coming here acting like a profesh. Like I play this game like a tryhard. I don't. I literally play this game for fun. It's just a childhood memory, and that's it. And I just wanted to talk about it. And if people have opinions where they disagree, I actually do want to hear them. I just don't want to get flamed. Please, please, please. But anyway, I'm gonna call it there. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I am so tired. See you around. Bye.